all is not what it seems. It's my territory, of course, Manchester. And if you go back with this character, he blows with the wind. He's a flip-flopper like so many of them.
You're obviously watching it closely.
Yes. And if
How
you,
is how is Manchester your territory?
it's where I was born, brought up.
Really?
Oh, yes, Stretford, Manchester, Trafford. So I know it
Oh,
well. And
you
don't,
know Manchester was where my first parish was.
whereabouts?
Hale.
Oh, that's where I went to school, Altrincham and Hale.
Did you go to Altrincham Grammar School?
No, I went to North Kestrian Grammar School,
Right.
which was a private school, and they're
Very posh area, isn't it?
very posh area. And there's a story there, I'll tell you. Wow.
I went to see one of the people in the parish one day, and she had a big cushion on her settee. Everybody was always having a go at the people of Hale for being nouveau riche.
Yes.
And this pillow said, it's better being nouveau riche than no riche at all.
Like it. Yes, it was. I had quite a story, really, in that I went to primary and junior school in Stretford, and in the 11 plus year, I was off for the whole year with dysentery.
Oh dear.
And it was a really bad, and they wouldn't let me go to school. Now, in those days, you coached the 11 plus examination, you took false papers and all sorts of things. I had none of that. And although I was in those days the A stream, they let me out just to sit the examination, and I didn't pass for the grammar school. So I had to go to a secondary modern school in Trafford, which is tough area even in those days.
I don't know that area.
Oh, very tough. On the edge of Moss Side, not the place to be. And my parents, who were well off, said, right, we're going to get you into a private school. We're not having you in that wretched school. We'll have to pay for it, but you still got to take an exam and pass an exam. And by that time, I was fully recovered and I sat the examination and I got the best marks that anybody had got in there for passing to the North Kestrian Grammar School. So I was treated and greeted by the headmaster and headmistress. Oh, we're glad you're on board with all your marks. But it wasn't long before my inherent hate of scholastic things came through. And eventually, the Billy Graham crusade came during the O level examinations. And I was called before the head. You cannot go to the Billy Graham. I said, but I'm one of the stewards and I'm a Christian and it'll be all right. He said, stupid. And there was a big fight, but not literally. But they knew where I stood and I knew where they stood. Anyway, I did get all my GCSEs despite the foreboding, except one, which was English.
No?
And I couldn't understand why. That was the easiest paper, didn't require any swatting. But it did require one thing. It required you to turn over the last page of the examination. And I failed to do that. I said, oh, I've done it now, I'm going. Arrogance. So I had to take it again in the autumn.
So what did you then do in life?
I went, I was looking for a job. So I went to, first of all, the Salford Town Hall where the BBC are to go through the
Where
usual.
the BBC main offices now are.
It is indeed. And I was training to be an accountant with the local government, well, city government of Salford. But I didn't like that and soon got out. And I thought, well, there must be something better than this in accountancy. So I joined an accountant's firm in Manchester, and it was just as boring. At least the accountancy training in Salford Town Hall was different. I was in charge of all the dogs in Salford. That's your desk over there. You're in charge of all the dog licenses. So I had to send demands for dog licenses. And I got into trouble even doing that.
Literally dog licenses.
Yes, you used to have to pay 7 and 6pence in old money to have your dog license in the old days. And I was very unpopular because I used to get lots of letters back saying, my dog's just died, don't you try and bully me for 7 and 6pence. So it was very active. And the other thing I had to do there, and what this was to do with accountancy, I don't know, Andrew, but you would appreciate it. I had to go and get round all the old people's homes and the hospitals to get the people to sign their pension so they could get their pension while they were in hospital and care homes. And I had, and this was when I was, 17, 18, it wouldn't be allowed today. But I had to go to hospitals where they were Parkinson's disease. And they were drilling holes in heads in those days, Andrew.
I know, they were
And
terrible.
I had to wade through urine to try and get these poor people just to sign. Eventually somebody came to me and said, look, forge the signature. This was from the town hall. You can't expect these people to sign a quite rightly so. So that's where I learned how to forge signatures.
Comes in handy.
It does sometimes. But then I thought, no, I really want to be in teaching. And I applied very late for any spaces that were available. And I got into Chester, in those days, teacher training. And it was an A college. There were only 3 A colleges. It was the equivalent of Oxbridge, basically, on a teaching level. And I thought, oh, this is all right. So they said, what subjects would you like to do? I said, I want divinity and geography, because I love geography, I love divinity. Oh, well, we'll give you a course in divinity that's way ahead of the university. We got the best lecturers here. I said, great, that sounds good. But we've got nothing left in geography. The places have all been filled. I said, well, what have you got? They said, arts and crafts. I said, I can't even draw matchstick men. And, oh, well, look after you because you want to teach 11 plus year primary. You'll be all right. We'll look after you. The divinity course was fantastic. The arts and crafts was a nightmare, except I could throw a pot. Pottery was part of it. Nobody else could, but I could throw a pot. And I learned how to bookbind. I like that. But when it came to art, all I did was wind up the teachers because I just couldn't draw and paint. My mate who had come from Liverpool Royal College of Art, which is a top college, and could paint wonderfully. And I were big mates, and we both failed again. The exam now, the thing is, we really wound up the arts teacher, who was a lady who also couldn't paint matchstick men like me. And she should never have been in that post. And she didn't like us to the point of hate. So she failed us completely, and failed a graduate from the Royal Liverpool College of Art who was a genius. It was pure vendetta. And she placed me, so I couldn't get directly into teaching. So they said, we know what, a year later, the college said, we know what's gone on here. Just go to an evening at an art college, and then we'll pass you. Those were the days, Andrew. It's changed somewhat now. But she was, I mean...
So did they do that?
Yeah, and they passed me. Because
they became a teacher.
Yes, but
which
I never
today
taught.
Takes degrees and all sorts.
Yes, and but I learned a lot in the divinity, because the guy that was our tutor was a genius. He believed in absolutely nothing. And we used to, as evangelical.
Well, it was the Bultmann days, wasn't it?
It was the Bultmann days. He believed in that. And
which was nothing.
Which was nothing. But we got on famously because we came from the evangelical school and used to spend time. Look, you've got to believe, sir, in your heart and your, and your mind to become a Christian. And he used to turn on us in the full class and say, I have got a heart and it's a pump. Nothing else but a pump. You can't use that language. He's perfectly correct, of course. But we had big arguments, but we both loved each other because he was...
So, what denomination were you?
Oh, Anglican, C.V. College it was. Top
no,
C.V.
You as a personal person?
I was an independent Methodist in those days. And I actually passed the independent Methodist ministerial exams. It was easy after the course that I been on at Chester College, because that was a top course. And but everybody was pushing me to go into it, become an independent Methodist minister. I didn't have a calling. And eventually I joined a Christian band. Well, got together a Christian band. It was much more entertaining to play guitar, lead guitar in a Christian band. So I've had quite an education.
How did you end up in the media world?
We did become very rich. That was a real miracle. We started Young People's Work, and we had a lot of money at one stage. I retired when I was 38.
Where did you make your money?
Investment advice mainly. And investment advice and getting difficult mortgages for difficult people. And I retired at 38, came to Spain, and lasted 6 months before I was crawling up the wall, because retirement is not good at any age, Andrew, as we know, but at 38, it's far too young. And I started the investment work off again here. But somebody said one day, because I used to write a column for a local newspaper, that maybe we can do a bit better and get into media. And we got into television. And we ran the regional television across Andalusia and North Africa for quite a while. And but it's always been on a Christian basis. It might not appear to be that, but it was, because we're sneaky. And when we put the local news on or the regional news, then we always got the Christian point of view over. And that's developed to where we are today.
So when did you actually move to Spain?
When I was 38, that's 1980 and a bit. And we would never have come, but there's a long story that I won't go into now.
So your children grew up there?
Yes. Well, the top two grew up in Wales, and then we went to a wonderful church in Wales, very small church, godly man was the priest there, and it was a wonderful church. But then I committed a great sin. It's a very Welsh area, and although the people of Wales are the most wonderful in the world, give more to charity than anybody else in the world, there's some of them who are completely overtaken by the Welsh language. And I came across these people, and I happened to say to them, well, let's see what the Bible says. Do you realize language is a curse? Well, I was set up by the Welsh Language Society, and I had to flee the country eventually. I mean, the UK.
But if the Welsh turn against you, you're out.
Vicious. They set me up beautifully. And I was told by my lawyer, get out of this country because you finish up in jail. I'd done nothing wrong. And I said, long time mate, still a mate of mine, talked to him regular. He was then the top criminal lawyer in Europe. And I said, I'm not guilty. You've been set up, you're guilty. Get out of the country. And this was in April. And remember the Birmingham Five?
I sure do.
Well, they were set up and got released eventually.
I know, fairly recently.
Yes. Well, it was all that time when the police were very keen on arresting and not getting the truth and following through on various things that they shouldn't have been involved in. So that was in the April, and I was told, by God, don't run. Stay here at the moment. I had 6 months, Andrew, that was not easy, with my lawyer saying, get out before you get your collar felt, because this is what happens to you and will happen to you. But I said, well, I've not, he's Jewish lawyer. Anyway, I was told in no uncertain terms to stay where you are. By that time, we had a house built for us in Spain, part of the millionaire lifestyle, and it wasn't ready till the 19th of December. And we were told to go on the 19th of December. You'll be arrested before then. Get out, you stupid person. Well, we didn't. Then the 19th of December arrived, and we've got, well, we've always been great caravanners. We've shown the kids Europe, every country, and taken them. And so we all boarded the caravan on the 19th of December. Don't forget that's 7 boys, plus one of their girlfriends, plus a dog. It's a big caravan and a big car. And there we were, driving prayerfully to Calais, Dover rather, to get to Calais. And it was 11 o'clock at night. And by that time, the nerves had got the better of me. And the shipping company said, don't go tonight, it's blowing a hoolie. wait till the morning. I said, no, I want to go now. um, so we did go. Wasn't a pleasant journey, but we arrived in Calais. And we just got to the end of the caravan because Spain is safe. France wasn't, but we just came down the ramp of the boat. Flashing lights everywhere. I turned to Norma and said, they've got us. And I said goodbye to everybody. Got out of the car to be arrested. And it was the purser of the boat that came. He said, is this yours? I said, oh, it's the skylight of the caravan. He says, you knocked it off because you got such a big caravan on the way down the ramp. You better have it back. I said, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Ran back to the car and set off to Spain. And then we breathed a sigh of relief. We travelled all night to get over to Spanish border.
And where did you stay at first?
In our new house.
The one you're in now?
No, the one in Catalonia. And basically, I was hounded by the police on the telephone. I said, well, have a word with my lawyer. I don't think I'm going to come back and be interviewed by you, sir. Anyway, years later, 12 years later, the full truth came out and how I was set up. And my lawyer rang me. He said, you're safe now. We've got to the truth. The police believe us. You can come back to the UK.
Did you?
Yes, because we had our restaurant businesses there.
And where did you go to?
Back to Abersoch, the land of the dreadful people in northwest Wales on the Third Stream Peninsula.
How did you get involved with the Isle of Wight?
We were in Spain and we got a phone call. Would you come back to the Isle of Wight and open a television company? Because we opened one in Spain. This new local television that never took off because the BBC were determined to kill it. But we started working. And it was working with the head of the company, who was a Mormon. And never the twain shall meet. And it was only a question of time that we said it's not working. But we were on the Isle of Wight then.
I just think it is so fascinating to see the similarities in our lives.
Isn't it just? It's frightening.
Really is.
Well, you've had your problems with the Charities Commission and various other things. So we're probably bolshy, Andrew. But the truth comes to the surface eventually. You wonder, I'll tell you what it was, that when I was running away from the police in Spain, it was the most peaceful, contented time in our life that we've had. And it shouldn't have been. Should have been the reverse. Oh, waiting for the knock on the door. Welcome once again to Canon Andrew White. And I don't know how you're going to reconcile this one, Andrew. We're starting with Lamentations and then going to Revelations. Nobody understands either book, but obviously you do.
Well, no, I don't. And that's exactly why I want to deal with this subject. I've had a terrible past few weeks for destruction of computers, and all the in-depth book I was working on has been destroyed and lost, and we've got all sorts of experts trying to find it, and they can't. And then we've had all the new terrible things happening in the world, in particular in well, the real concern is what's been going on at Davos and the arguments there between Trump and everybody else. But for me, it was particularly difficult because I used to be a member of Davos and go every year. And I was only there because I was part of a group called the C100. And the role of the C100 was to try and return religion to the Davos debate. And it was supposedly the top 100 religious leaders from around the world. And the whole of the commission was chaired by Lord Carey. And I was at the time his special envoy to the Middle East. So I got pulled in there. And I was talking to my wife one day, and she said it must be interesting having all those important people to talk to. And I said, they're not all important. I had lunch with a guy today who's just a singer from Ireland. And they said, what was his name? I said, it was Bruno or Bono or something like that. And I didn't realize that he was really, really important.
I think that's the U2 days, isn't it? And there were a number of Christians in that group.
Yes, it is. So it was interesting. But the book of Lamentations is a book of Jeremiah about the terrible things which are happening to the people of Israel. And the book is basically about what it will be like when they are invaded by the Babylonians, and the Babylonians who would come and destroy them. And the book is talking continually about the wretched Babylonians, but it doesn't mention the name Babylon once. Babylon doesn't get mentioned, but any Bible scholar will tell you what that's about. You know, one of the great things in my life has always been about how the glory descends on us in tragedy, which comes from my days in Baghdad when the war started. And I saw a great cloud, which I thought was a cloud of glory. And the Lord said, I said to the Lord, what is this? And I said, how can I find out about it? And he said, read the book of Ezekiel. And I did, and I read about the cloud and Ezekiel falling down by the Kebar River. And where was I? By the Kebar River. And so the book of Lamentations comes into being. And I read this verse in Lamentations 2, verse 1, how the Lord has covered the daughters of Zion with the cloud of his anger, and has held down splendor of Israel. For heaven to earth, he has not remembered his footstool in the days of his anger. And so I think about how the Lord in this time of distress has often even turned against those he really loved. But it is only temporary. You've only got to move on a few thousand years and you come to the book of Revelation. There are two books in the Bible which I really do not understand, and that is Lamentation and Revelation. And I don't think there are many people who understand the books of Lamentations and Revelation. And with all my computer problems, I've lost most of the book, which I'd nearly finished. And so I have decided to start a new book, which I'm calling From Lamentations to Revelations. And that is so much the nature of my life, how I have gone from total tragedy and desperateness to extreme glory and majesty.
One day, Andrew, like the Apostle Paul says, we see through a glass darkly.
Glass darkly.
But then we will know.
We'll see face to face.
Exactly that. And it's difficult, but I suppose philosophically, never mind theologically for a minute, you can see why that is the case, because we live as a Christian in difficult times. And it would be lovely to have that magic wand and say, well, Lord, heal this person or heal me or do this. But it doesn't work out that way. And you can see philosophically why, because therefore we go back to the Garden of Eden and we would have all knowledge and we made a mess of it then. Let's not repeat the issue nowadays. But fortunately, putting philosophical thoughts on one side and putting theological thoughts on the other side, humility, patience, hope comes into this instead, doesn't it?
It certainly does. And humility is something that we're all called to. We are all called to be more like Jesus and to be more like the suffering servant, which brings us back to Isaiah. So we're going through all of them: Jeremiah, Isaiah, St. Paul, and all that we find in Ezekiel and in Revelation. We're really dealing with some of the most apocalyptic aspects of our faith tradition. And the apocalyptic are those which cannot be understood. And yet, what I want this book to be about is an attempt to understand the apocalyptic and the traumatic and the Pentecostal and the glorious.
It would have been easy for God, and in human terms, we think about this, to present the New Testament ideal to save the world, for him, God, to come with all his angels and sort it out immediately. But no, that wasn't the right route. The suffering servant was the right route.
And I think it's incredible how so much of the Bible, well, all of the Bible is a journey from tragedy to glory. And we never know when we have reached that glory. But we know that one day we will. And in the words of Jesus, we all know soon and very soon. But soon can be 10,000 years.
It's fascinating to see how science has changed, because it went through a great period of arrogance. Yeah, okay, maybe 100 years ago, but the more we learn, the more we're finding out that we don't know. And that's humility. Eventually, it's getting through to the scientists.
Yeah.
And it won't solve the problem. It's a personal relationship that we have with our maker that will do that. But it's interesting to think back that, wow, when you look at what we see in the universe, the more, I repeat, we find out, the more we realize that we know nothing.
Exactly.
Food for thought there, Andrew. We must move on. Thank you so much.
We move on, we look up, and we keep going.
See you next week.